How would you feel if you had to wait for a visa to move to Australia for 3 years? Once you got the visa, how quickly would you want to move? What if it wasn't just you or your wife and you had 4 kids? Having your life on limbo for that long is crazy. What's going through your head? Well, for our guests today, exactly that happened. And once their visas were granted, they managed to move their whole lives from the Highlands of Scotland to the Gold Coast in just 7 weeks. What exactly does it take to go through that kind of visa process? And is that something that you could do yourself? I guess we're going to find out. G'day, James. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I have my beer ready and I have my rum ready, but I understand that you're fresh out and the bottle is closed.
Yeah, bottle's closed here. 8 o'clock. Realised 7 minutes past, and it's a write-off. So tea and coffee only.
These are Queensland problems. I've heard a lot of people saying about how early things shut, and in particular, the bottle.
Yeah.
So, word of warning to anyone who's wondering, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about yourself, James. You, your family, your situation.
Yeah. So I arrived here 6 weeks ago now.
6 weeks.
Yeah, fresh off the plane from the Highlands of Scotland.
Was it actually the Highlands? Because for some people, oh wow,
yeah, like proper Highlands is in a bridge over to an island, like the real depths of Scotland. So
wow,
beautiful place. Quite remote, but yeah, great place to raise kids, bar the weather. So
how many kids do you have?
4.
You are an absolute hero. 4 kids, transporting them to Australia.
They don't have TV in the Highlands, so
well, they might have a TV, just not very good reception.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If they didn't have TV, what would they do for fun?
Exactly.
No, that was a question. What do they do for fun? What do you do in the Highlands of Scotland if you don't have chase?
Yep.
Why did you go to Australia then? Why didn't you go to New Zealand?
There's some sheep here too, isn't there?
Yeah, I guess. It's probably easier to chase sheep in New Zealand. I don't know. There's lots of hills. So what was your life like in the Highlands of Scotland then?
Life was great. So I worked for the family construction company. Had been there for 13 years. My wife, Claire, is a maths teacher at the local secondary high school. She'd been there for, I think, 15 years, 16 years. So yeah, I was born and raised there, so I knew all the locals. Obviously clients through the building company, real small town, so you knew everybody, very safe. But for us, it was a case of we both worked full time, so we'd be out of the door like 6:30 in the morning, home 6:30 at night, and then the weekend would come, and in the Highlands it rains about 320 days of the year.
Wow.
So imagine being stuck inside with 3 boys who are pretty supercharged and a wee girl. Yeah, it kind of feels like you're just working really hard and you're not really sort of reaping any rewards from it.
I can imagine 40 days just to get out. It must be like every time the sun is shining that you just feel compelled to get out. You could be on death's door, like, all sick in bed, and you'd be like, no, I've got to get out because
just drag
the sun again.
Grab somebody by the leg and just drag them out, and it's like, no, the sun's out, so you're going out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so other than the weather, what else were the important reasons for you wanting to move then?
Lifestyle was a big thing. I'd met a lot of Australians when I was in my teenage years and pub years, and I'd always shared stories with them and sort of built a picture in my head of what Australia might be like. Yeah, so we came here in 2019 to sort of take it for a test drive. We thought
just before COVID.
Yeah, just before COVID, we thought, it can't be that good. Everybody must just be, glossing it up a bit. So we sort of made the decision, do we go down the route of applying for the visa and putting all our money into that, or do we put the money into taking the 6 of us, pretty pricey, on a recce trip? So we decided to go for the recce trip, and we came to Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria just to try a little bit of...
the whole hog. Try them all, see what you like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have the time or the money to go right the way around the whole place, or we would.
That would be a good adventure.
Based off feedback from groups like, Facebook groups and Google, we sort of try to identify places that might suit younger families. And the climate was a big thing for us. We thought we're sun worshippers on them 40 days of the year that we got it. So we thought if we're going to invest all that time and money and re-establish ourselves. We want it to be, mild and clear blue skies the majority of the time.
How are you finding La Nina?
Every day is like glorious. Even when it's peeing it down, the rain is warm and it doesn't go horizontal in your face like it did in the Highlands.
So, other than the weather, the lifestyle, were there any other reasons for your move?
The climate, not the weather climate, but the economic climate. Australia is very strong. It's always seemed to run pretty well. Hasn't experienced some of the problems we have. So we always just thought, what have you got to lose? How many people do you meet who are in their 50s or 60s and they all say, oh, I had the opportunity to go to Australia and I could have done this, but I didn't, and now I regret it.
4 kids on that flight. What was that like?
No, they were absolutely fine. I actually think, as much as I hated the wait for the visa, and it was awful, just over 3 years, I think it kind of built up the excitement for them, and the kids obviously got 3 years older and started realizing that it was very exciting. They were looking forward to nicer weather, meeting new people. My kids are very outdoorsy, despite the sort of poor weather that they were raised in. So I think once they actually got on the plane, they were that keen on getting there that they managed to behave for 20
What ages are they?
They're 3, 5, 7, and 12.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Big gaps. Big
Yeah.
gaps.
Yep.
I guess the 12-year-old, though, can look after either themselves or even a younger one.
He's pretty helpful, but they're fast wee buggers, and they can. When we came in 2019, we had 3 of them were 4 and under, which sounds like a nightmare. But
Yeah.
they were strapped in buggies. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't touch anything. They couldn't break anything. Now they're all like Tasmanian devils. And
They want to touch everything. They want to break everything.
yeah, we went to an e-bike shop today because I'm looking at an e-bike for commuting, and
what e-bike have you been looking at?
been looking at a few. So I test drove a Trek.
Like the actual bike Trek. Like I've heard of Trek.
Yeah, Trek. Yeah,
Just an e-bike version. Okay, so that
Yeah,
kind of
it's-
e-bike then.
Where I am, it's got a 16 or 17% incline, which runs for 1,000 meters. So it's pretty heavy going. And I've gone from 3 degrees at home to 30 degrees here. So
Yeah, you don't want to be pedaling in 30 degrees. You don't want to be doing anything in 30 degrees.
it is hard going, isn't it?
Especially for you guys, like this is your first summer. So and I remember what ours was like, and just thinking about costs and wanting to not put the aircon on as much because I didn't want to have to pay for it.
Yeah,
But
of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
We learned very quickly that between the hours of about 10 and 2 in the summer, you just don't do anything
Yeah.
outside. Definitely.
See, that's the times we're going out at the minute because everything's nice and quiet.
Yeah, touche.
Yeah.
We also learned as well very quickly that in the summer you do all your kind of wet activities in the sense of you go to the beach. That's fine
Yeah.
at that time. Be a bit sun safe, obviously, or go to the outdoor swimming pools. We went to the park once, and there was no one at the park, and we realised it was even a covered park, but everything was just still so hot and running
Yeah.
around after all. And I only had
It
one
burns you.
to run around after, and it was just why are we doing this? Why are we doing this at this time? And now when I walk the dog and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, I see kids in the park. That's when they do it.
Yeah.
Just get them up early. Australians love to get up early. Get them up early, knacker them out, have a nap.
Yeah. Well,
A siesta.
we've been slowly adjusting. Like at home in Scotland on the weekends, we'd get up at 7, 7:30, and the kids would sort of mooch about, and maybe finally actually get up at 8. But here, the kookaburra and all the other exotic birds are out making a racket, a nice racket, but at
You say it's nice, but it's kind of, it's like they're shouting at each other all the time, isn't it? The birds just shout at each other.
they are shouting.
Semi-mildly aggressively.
Yeah, basically. But it's like a novelty, isn't it? When you get here, it's like, oh, Australia, it's so amazing. Listen to the parrots and the kookaburras.
Yeah.
And then
It sounds like a jungle.
yeah, it does. Yeah, well, we've got trees right outside the house as well, so they're right in there.
Yeah, they'll be in the trees.
We've had all the cute things just now. We've had like the kookaburras, the lorikeets, king parrots. But then the other day we
Nice.
found a snake skin in the back garden.
Did you identify which one it was?
Nah, they're all bad. So just um,
It might just be a little tree snake. They're quite cute.
yeah.
We get
Oh,
them all the time.
we went to Byron Bay a couple of days ago, and we found a carpet python
Yep.
on the grass bank. And we originally thought when we got here, that we would freak out when we seen a snake. But we've done our research, tried to learn what ones you run away from and what ones you run away from screaming as loud as you can. We quite quickly realised that like carpet pythons, pretty harmless. They're
Yeah.
not venomous. They're not going to bite you unless you try and grab it. And it was
That's
just
the same with all the nope ropes, really. You just don't go near
no
them.
ropes. Yeah. We've renamed the fly screens the snake gate.
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. Always keep the fly screen shut. That is a good shout.
Yeah.
Although we've got a dog now, and he's kind of chewed our back fly screen to the point where he now uses it as a little doggy door flap. So
Handy.
he doesn't get the fly screen anymore. We're gonna have to get those metal ones that you
Yeah.
can't literally chew through.
Yeah, that is the downside of Queensland. Is definitely has the most things that are going to kill you in all of Australia.
The worst we've seen is a huntsman.
In the house, or
Yeah,
yeah,
bloody quick trying to get them out.
they're massive, aren't
But
they?
yeah, but even that, it's not going to kill you. It'll just really kind of make you a bit ill.
Yeah.
So again, don't go near it unless you're going to use something to catch it and get it out, or shoo it out, or if you're really that horrible, you're going to just get a newspaper and just get rid of it. A broom is normally pretty good.
Yeah.
For just general shooing, and you get a bit of a distance from it. I think it's the garage. I need to sort out the gap underneath the door of the garage.
I went to Cairns about a week ago, so we needed because we've got
You have been around a bit at the moment, haven't you?
Everywhere.
How are you getting about so much?
Just get up every day and like go.
How did you get to Cairns?
So Cairns, I flew one way, picked up the car because we needed about 1 million
you went
seats
to buy a
for the
car.
million kids.
You went to buy a car in Cairns.
As you do, just dead casual. So
What cars in Cairns that you couldn't have bought in Southeast Queensland?
never try and buy a Kia Carnival because it turns out they're like the sports car of soccer mums. Everybody wants one. The second-hand
they
car
only make
market,
them
as
in
you know,
Cairns or
is
something?
just no. It's just nobody else is stupid enough to go to Cairns to collect it. So I got a great deal.
Fantastic.
But coming off the plane in Cairns, like when the plane doors opened, it was like somebody had stuck my head in the oven, and a steam oven at that. It was humid. It's wild. I was driving back and I seen a sign for the driver reviver, which they're pretty good for here. Your free coffee. Seen the sign and thought, right, that's it. I'm gonna go and get caffeinated. Seen the toilets there because they're really good here. They put all logical things in one place. It's not like back home.
Yep.
So there's like a picnic bench, toilets, the coffee stop, all the good things. So I opened the door to go into the toilet, and there was a spider probably about that in diameter, like right at my head height. So I panicked, screamed like a little girl, and then sort of dodged it and went into the toilet, came back out, and then a truck driver pulled up, and he took the exact same route as me, walked straight up to the toilet, just looked straight at the spider and basically walked into it, like not caring, obviously from Cairns, realised that it was an orb spider and they're harmless, and was just like, yep, walked straight into his forehead, it kind of like crawled over his head, and he was just went about his business.
Are orbs harmless?
Yeah.
I thought we get a few of them around where I am, and they just look so menacing.
Yeah, they look terrifying, but apparently they keep the smaller, nastier ones at bay.
Okay.
So there you go. You should
Keep them around then. I'll keep them around.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Every day is a school day.
Exactly.
So you drove down from Cairns. Just
Yeah.
how was the drive? Because I've wanted to do the drive perhaps up and back for holidays and things.
It was amazing, beautiful, and it was really interesting watching the diversity and the density of Queensland change from the top to the bottom, because where we are, we're right at the bottom of the Gold Coast, almost at the New South Wales border. So it was literally like the top of Queensland to the bottom. And
it's like 1,800 Ks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 23 hours driving and about 1,800 Ks.
Well done. Well
Yeah,
done. All
it
for a
was.
car.
So what ended up happening was I picked the car up. I drove, I think, like 14 hours to Rockhampton.
That's a good slog in one go.
That was a good go. So I arrived in Rockhampton about two, I think it was about 2 a.m. And a good friend who I hadn't seen since I left Scotland lives in Rockhampton and was like, "Oh, will you come out and meet me and my friends?" And there was a big group going to go out, so I was originally going to be there a lot earlier and said, "Yeah, sounds really good." The night obviously got later and later. Half the party dropped off and I'd still committed to going out. So at 2 a.m., I rocked up to the nightclub and I went clubbing till about 5:30 in the morning.
I didn't know they had places in Rockhampton that would be open till 5.
Oh, yeah, that place is crazy, man. That town, that's a crazy town. It looks sleepy, but it's not. So yeah,
I'll have to add it to the to-do list one day, maybe. Take Samantha up to Rockhampton.
it's probably not a place to, like take the wife and kids up to Rocky for a nightclub. I'm not sure there's anything else in Rockhampton but the nightclub.
Oh, I'm sure TripAdvisor would give me something good to do.
I think it's the beef capital of Australia.
Oh, I do like a steak.
Yep, a lot of farms, a lot of cattle, a lot of cowboys.
And they
So,
all go partying till 5 a.m.
yeah, so that was it. Party till 5, got 2 hours sleep, and then got back on the road again in the morning and headed off in the soccer mobile all the way back to the Gold Coast.
So what visa are you on?
So we are on a 190, but we were also granted a 491.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're the only people
Wow.
I've ever heard of who've secured a 491 and then a 190 because you can't apply for a 190 when you're on a 491. So yeah.
But you hadn't, I suppose because you hadn't activated it, so you weren't technically on it. Is that how it worked?
Not quite, but we rang 3 different visa agents to ask their opinion before we shelled out the money, and they all said,
Yep.
"Whoa, what you're doing hasn't been done before. There's not really any guidelines for it." It was slightly complicated, but we took the risk, financial risk and time risk, because it was more skills assessments and more in English exams. But we were granted the 491, and then I think about 4 weeks later, we were granted the 190.
Wow.
So
for those people that don't know, what is a 491 and what is a 190?
So the 491 is a 5-year provisional permanent residency visa. They brought this visa out in 2019, just as we applied, and it was the government's preference over the 190, because with the 190 they couldn't hold you to the state who nominated you. I think they had too many people getting that visa for South Australia and then moving to Queensland. So the 491, they promised much faster processing time. It was about 3 months as opposed to about 18 months for a 190 at that time. And it was provisional permanent residency. So once you had it, after 3 years, you just had to submit 3 years proof of residency address and pay slips from your employer. So as long as you could prove that you'd earned $54,000 for 3 years and lived specifically in regional Queensland, then you were guaranteed permanent residency.
Aren't both of them regional visas?
With the 491 and the 190?
Yeah.
190, that's a good point actually. I'm not sure I think with the 190, no, I don't think it is regional. It's anywhere. Because the only difference between the 190 and the 189 is the 189 you can obviously go to any state straight away and move between them. Whereas with
So
the
190, you say which state you want to go to.
Yeah, and you've got a moral obligation, not a legal obligation, to stay with that state.
Yep.
So the 491 sounded perfect because of the processing time. In hindsight, there's a few tricky things. You're not classed as a permanent resident, so you couldn't get things like childcare subsidy.
Yep. That's a big chunk of money if you don't qualify for childcare subsidy.
A lot of money. So yeah, for people with children, that's worth thinking about. The other big thing was you don't get the Queensland First Home Grant, so you won't get $25,000 towards your first home. And the biggest one is you're liable for foreign investors tax. So you will pay an additional 8% stamp duty on top of what anybody else would pay. So if you're buying a house, the housing market's gone crazy. If you're buying a house at 800, 900,000, you're talking like 50 or $60,000 of surcharge just because you're on a temporary visa.
Yeah, I guess it really does just highlight for what stage of life you're in, really. For us with families and kids, moving here and having permanent residency, not only for us mentally, just having that stability and the choice is it actually worth moving, our families all the way to the other side of the world for a better life? That's kind of what you do need. But
Yeah.
then it's the catch-22, isn't it? Do you want to go for a visa that doesn't necessarily give you permanent residency straight away? How long can we keep going like that? Can we rent for a few years? Most people can do that.
Yeah.
Everyone would like to buy, again, having that settled kind of nature. If you're in your 20s and you've got no kids, it's just you and a partner. Maybe you're married. You don't even need to be married these days to be able to move a partner across with you.
Yeah.
Sponsorship visas are probably a lot of, really, really accessible. And that 491, hey, it
Yeah.
probably would be fun, isn't it, when you're young, to work in a bit more of a regional area, get a bit
Yeah.
more understanding of Australia. How boring would it be if you just kind of moved to the same place anywhere in the world, not necessarily just Australia, and that's the only place we've ever kind of been?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the theory behind the 491 is great, and it's regional. So they're making people who come into the country work in the regional areas, so that they're populating the areas that are really suffering with skill shortages, which is
Mm.
great. So like hospitality and all the trades, they're all getting a wee boost. We just got really unlucky because we obviously applied for that visa because it was a 3 month processing time, and then literally 6 weeks later they shut the border and visa processing
Yeah.
stopped.
And unless you're a permanent resident, you couldn't even get in anyway. So that
Yeah,
wouldn't have helped.
so we went into limbo. So we had my family, obviously it was a family company, so my family were all asking, when are you going? We need to put processes and systems in place. Our friends and loved ones were asking, what's happening? When are you going? Even the school that the kids were at, their education, when are you going? So for 3 years, we were just living in limbo. We didn't really want to renovate the house. We didn't want to go on any holidays. We didn't really want to spend any money on anything unnecessary. But then you don't want the kids to suffer, so it was like a fine balance. But I mean, to be honest, it was horrendous.
How did you get through it? What was your go-to to get through it?
To get through it, I think following other people's journeys on the likes of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We followed Facebook page Poms and Oz. It's
Mm-hmm.
great following other people's journeys. We used to watch your videos every weekend. We would sit down on a Sunday morning.
Sorry about
I'll let you off with it.
that.
So there's another good couple as well, Maz, and I forget what her husband is called.
Ben.
Bam Famalam.
The Bam Famalam.
Yeah. So
Yeah, big shout out to the Bam Famalam. I've done a video with them.
Yeah, they're really funny. So it was really great just to see, other people who'd been through the exact same process and getting wee tasters of what life could be like. And naturally, in 3 years, there's a lot of opportunities come up for you in terms of work and all sorts of other things, and you're kind of there in limbo. So for us, it was an even longer journey, really, because we originally decided to immigrate in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just me, Claire, my wife Claire, and our son Lewis. I think Lewis was 5 at the time. We've always had a great sense of adventure, and we thought, right, that's it. We're all young. It's a big world. We haven't seen any of it. Let's immigrate to Australia. The theory is great.
What stopped you?
So as soon as I went on the visa agency websites and looked at the points system, the processing times, the forms, we just felt a bit overwhelmed, and we thought we can do this. So I went and sat my IELTS exam, didn't really do any research, and got pretty average points. So we looked at the points system, and at the time, back in 2015, you only needed 65 or 60 points for a 189.
Yeah, I think that's still the minimum now, but they don't really get granted on the
No, it's not.
65 points.
It's not really accurate. I think.
Unless maybe if you're a nurse, you might get you might get in with
Yeah,
65 points.
yeah, but the rest of them, I looked at the average in 2022, and the average 189 was like 100 points, 105
Yeah.
points.
Well, I think
So,
we got ours granted in 2020, no 2019, so just before 2020, before COVID happened.
yeah,
It was December, and when it came through just before Christmas, and I got 75 points.
yeah,
So I don't know how people get 100 points. It must be two people, like two nurses, basically, that are the youngest they can be with the most amount of experience that you can have for that amount of age, and they're kind of just mashing their points together. Because
yeah.
I,
It's
because
a hard one because,
it's like
like,
you get points for being young, but then you get points for having enough experience,
for
and it's like, well,
experience, yeah.
I can't have 8 years
No,
experience and be 22. Like
no.
I didn't start being a nurse when I
There
was
must, like,
14.
statistically, there must be like a perfect age. It's that
Yeah,
12
yeah,
months where you're,
yeah. I think it's I did the maths and it was something like 26 that I kind of figured it out that you're getting maximum
yeah,
points for age versus because it's every 5 years. So I think 32 was my cutoff, and that's
yeah,
why I had to get everything done before I was 32. At least the application kind of stage for it, because you just apply with the points of whatever your age is. It doesn't really matter when you get it granted.
yeah,
And then it was every 5 years after that. So it might not have even been 26. It's like 26, 27. So that
yeah.
gives you kind of the maximum amount of points for your age.
Balanced with,
Yeah, because I think
yeah,
it's 27, between 27 and 32, it's 5 points difference. And then
yeah.
another 5 points difference if you get to 37.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's about right because when we did
yeah.
our points calculator in 2015, I was 25 and I wasn't scoring enough points. So it was, yeah, the visas were really expensive. Australia is probably one of the most expensive visas out there. The process was long and quite complicated, and I didn't score enough points. So
Did you have a visa agent or were you just doing it all yourself?
we hadn't even got to that stage. We'd contacted one of the reputable ones and got some initial advice, but we just kind of got stage fright and thought, no. So I did a bit of searching online and realised that Canada had a very simple visa scheme. They were really interested in getting UK and Irish residents over there quickly to fill skill shortages.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a quick phone call with an agency. I got a job offer. They sponsored me. The sponsorship came through in literally like 2 or 3 weeks, and we
Wow, very
were
quick.
very quick. Yeah, we were granted the visa, so that was perfect. We were moving to Canada, and we went and told friends and family. A new adventure. And then Claire fell pregnant with our second son. So hugely exciting. We rang the Department of Immigration for Canada, explained the situation, really easygoing people, and they were like, don't worry, when the baby's born, you basically come to the office, hand in this paperwork, and they'll be a resident too. Perfect. So we're still going to Canada. And then at Claire's 20-week scan, we discovered that the baby had cleft lip and palate. So we met with the specialist team. They said that he would need several surgeries. He'd need some mild sort of support through his early years in life. Went back to the Canada government again, and they said, look, you're welcome to come, but the UK has one of the world's leading cleft surgeons. So they recommended that we stayed in the UK.
At least until that's sorted.
Yep. So that was the plan. We thought we would stay in the UK, get the repair work done, and then move over maybe a couple of years later. But life just took over. It was incredibly busy, and that was the plan. And we sat, life took over, work got incredibly busy. Claire went back to work. We got the surgeries done. Yeah, life was just busy, busy, busy. And Canada just sort of fell on the back burner. We grew increasingly fed up with the cold weather. And then we were thinking, well, we're going
Canada's not going to get any warmer.
No, it's sunnier and they do get a beautiful summer, but we sort of thought, we're cheating ourselves out of what we want based on the fact of how much the visa costs and how complicated it is. And there must be a way, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, that was it. So we then had third child and we had fourth child, and
It's all adding up. All adding up.
then in 2000, I think it was like tail end of 2018 or start of 2019, I thought, right, the time's come. I've got all the points for my age. I've got all the experience, and thought I'm just going to look into it properly. Did all the skills assessments, did my English exam, actually revised for it this time and got superior score. So I got full points.
You weren't hungover when you did it?
Nah, not this time. No.
Oh, they give you extra medals if you do it when you're hungover.
No, I was drunk instead.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, and we just, steadily started collating the information, submitted our expression of interest. Queensland, that was processed in like record time. I think our agent had told us it would be 8 to 12 weeks. It was 48 hours. So yeah, it all moved very, very quick. And then we submitted it, paid all the money, which was quite expensive for a family of 6. And COVID.
But you want to get it right. That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, you do want to get it right.
It can be done by people who are motivated enough to do it. And, most of us are motivated, but it's just complicated. And if you're paying so much for something and you get it wrong, how bad is that going to be?
Yeah.
Because they don't give you your money back. That's it. You just got it wrong.
They don't give you your money back, and they don't ask questions. They will just hit decline. If they're not happy about something, they will hit you. And quite often just say no. You tick the box or claim the wrong points.
Yeah.
Claiming points is very complicated, because if you've had maternity pay, was it paid? Was it in your contract? Was it statutory pay, or was it full contribution from your employer? Saying that you were paid for the whole year, for example, if you're a teacher, or you're paid for 3 months, part for 6, it's a really grey area whether that counts as an experience year or not.
Yeah. It's better to just here's all my paperwork that I've got, and give it to someone who knows what they're looking for or looking at. They will tell you exactly what you've got. I know of a lady. I've never met her. I'd love to. She's in charge of a blog called the Londoner in Sydney. She's been in Australia for quite a few years now. She has just applied for her citizenship, but she had to wait. I think it was 5 years, because originally when she applied for her citizenship, she got something wrong and they just cancelled it, and then were like, you can't even apply now for another 5 years. Like, what? That's crazy. It's like just because you got something wrong. So obviously the next time she used an agent to kind of help her out, because I can't afford to get it wrong again.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would say to anybody is, when you're looking at the cost that an agent gives you and you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's X amount, then it's whatever, a couple of grand or 2 or 3 grand, and you're thinking absolutely not. You have to look at the bigger picture of the actual move.
The rest of your life.
I've seen people out there now saying, I've got a budget of £6,000, can I make the move? No. You've got to be realistic. I don't think
that's even going to cover, because even on a working holiday visa, don't you have to show that you've got at least, I think it's $5,000,
something like that. Yeah,
$5,000 or $10,000. That's £6,000 is going to just about cover your flight and your proof of funds to get here. And I've seen people's blogs as well for even things like working holiday visas, traveling for a year. How much does that cost? And they're saying, if you want to do all the bits that you want to do and visit all the places you want to visit, I saw one today, they were like $50,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Or even what you said, like $54,000, that's the proof that you have to say that you have been at least working properly. Well, there you go. Yeah. That's how much money you will need in total to fund your lifestyle in Australia for a year.
So we were on the 491, stuck, waiting. I think 2.5 years had passed, and I'm quite a paperworky kind of guy. I'm a bit geeky. I quite like processes and procedures and forms, and so I thought, right, well, I've got nothing to do while I'm waiting, so how's about getting Claire registered with the Queensland College of Teachers?
That's quite simple. That's a simple process.
Yeah. So as part of that, we had to start collecting professional references, paperwork, from
statements of service, they call them, don't they?
Yeah, and that was it. So when I stood back and looked at all the paperwork, I said to Claire one night, we've actually almost got all the paperwork here to do a skills assessment. And she said, I'm really busy. I don't want to go and be interviewed like I was for my skills assessment. And I said, no, it doesn't work like that
You
for
don't have
teachers.
to. AITSL, AITSL, just send it off.
Yeah, shout out to the teachers. You've definitely got it easy on the skills assessment anyway.
And it's one of the few professions as well where everything's like directly transferable. Tradies in
Yeah,
particular, you've got to prove everything like that you
yeah.
can do it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even some professions, I know things like plumbers and stuff, you can't start off straight away. You have to still do
Yeah,
like a year's worth of just to prove that you can actually do things. I kind of get it because the Australian standards, building standards for different things, it's not exactly the same. So it kind of
yeah,
makes sense that at least for a year, kind of be a little bit of an understudy and just get used to how everything is similar, but just a little bit slightly different. It
yeah.
probably should be the same for teaching, to be honest. I mean, I kind of say kids are kids, but it is the
Yeah,
same, but it isn't
curriculum's
the same.
different.
But
Yeah,
but regardless of that, it's now straight away. Here's your teaching number. Off you go. You got a pulse. Get in a classroom and mold some minds.
yeah.
It sounds like you've had a few challenges then. What's been your biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge I think was actually getting here. We were granted the visa on the 7th of October and we booked our flights for the 24th of November. So I think just
Wow.
under 7 weeks because we'd waited, life had been on hold for 3 years. So we worked for 5 of them 7 weeks. So we only had 2 weeks without the children were at school, but 2 weeks where we weren't at work, and we sold the house. We sold our cars, all the kids' toys, their dirt bikes, because they're into all that sort of stuff. We had to rehome our dogs, our cat. We had to do handovers at work. It was crazy. We then, because we're in the middle of nowhere, it's a 7 hour drive to the airport. So on one of the days, we packed until, I think we
Wow.
packed, Claire and I were packing till 3 a.m. We went to bed until 5 a.m. We got up, drove 7 hours to Glasgow, unloaded our stuff into the container because the container wouldn't come to the Highlands, drove 7 hours back, and then did 2 hours of customs paperwork. So I think we were way up at the sort of 24-hour mark on the road. So I think really that was our biggest hurdle, was physically getting everything prepped from this side ready for
Yeah.
life on the Australia side. On this side, single biggest hurdle, definitely finding accommodation. The housing crisis is real. Whether you're buying, whether you're renting, you've got 40 to 50 people going in for every property. It's dog eat dog. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now they've introduced systems with some of the agencies in Queensland where you can't physically apply for a rental property unless you have attended the open home. So
Makes it a bit fairer,
yeah, but it means
I
no
guess.
applying from the UK before you get here.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky.
I use
I mean, we didn't apply for anything when in the UK anyway. We just waited till we got
yeah.
here, but then we didn't have it as competitive as that. How many houses did you have to look at?
So we applied. We were knocked back for 5 houses, and we were knocked back basically straight away. We didn't have any residential address history here, no credit score here,
Mm-hmm.
so we were knocked back pretty quick. But what we did, we were applying from Scotland before we left, and then we decided to recruit a relocation agent. So the relocation agent helped search for properties. She was based in the Gold Coast, so she knew it she was born here, so she knew it like the back of her hand. So she recommended areas that were great for families, close to my work. And then it transpired that the house that we absolutely loved, the property manager also managed the properties for my employers. So a quick reference from my employer saying James works for us. He's this and he's that, and bingo, got the house.
Not what
It's
you know, it's who
definitely
you
who
know.
you know. If you are coming from the UK, the money you spend on Airbnbs and hotels now, it's probably going to save you money paying for a relocation agent. They got our house for us. We had mattresses delivered. We had food in the fridge. We had everything. So we arrived with 4 extremely exhausted kids and us, and we jumped straight into our own house, into our own mattresses, and when we woke up in the morning, there was Cocoa Pops in the fridge.
And this is all from Scotland, and it's all
Everything, the
ready
whole
for
lot was
you
ready to go.
using a
Yeah, they'll
relocation agent.
even buy you a car, get you.
How much did they cost?
So ours was $1,800. So current
Hmm.
exchange rate £950,000, and they'll do as much or as little as you want. They'll buy a car for you. They'll get your car seats because not sure if everybody will be aware.
Yeah, you can't bring the UK
Can't
ones
bring them with
across.
you. They'll help you with school catchment areas. That's another big thing here. I think housing is the most stressful part because the rest of it, when you get here, you're in control of. Applying for jobs.
Hmm.
Yourself. It's based on how well you're presented and how well you're qualified. If you come across as kind, caring, compassionate, qualified, you're probably going to get the job. And if you don't, it's probably on you.
Well, I reckon the interviews here are just checking whether you're
Yeah,
a or not,
exactly.
really.
Yeah, exactly that.
They've already decided whether they're going to give you the job based upon your resume, and then when they look at you, oh yeah, he's not a
Yeah,
that'll do.
yeah, pretty much. They definitely the rules around HR here are probably a little bit more relaxed than the UK, I would say. But yeah, with housing, I feel like it's
Yeah,
unfair. All we could do was sort of give them a mortgage statement, and eventually I gave them
yeah.
a copy of the contract of the sale to show that it had been sold.
Yeah,
But one trick I did use, if people are in that position, is to offer 6 months rent up front.
we did the same thing. We offered
Yeah,
a few months
it
up
sounds
front.
excessive, but it works. I think they can't ask for it legally, but if they're offered
No,
it and there's 40 people who are only going to give bond plus 2 weeks, and there's somebody saying, I
yeah,
actually owned my own home, I've sold it, I've
yeah.
relocated, and I'm going to give you 3 months or 6 months up front.
And I understand that most of the concern is whether I'm going to pay the
Yeah,
rent. So here's the proof. Here's my
exactly.
rent.
It's a good option to help you stand out. So yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
definitely our
absolutely.
biggest hurdle.
And some great tips actually, and it's just great to hear that you've you've overcome it, because I know that there's a lot of people that are still struggling with just finding good
Yeah,
housing.
good housing is the word for it. Some of these pictures on realestate.com.au, some of them are 10 years old.
The
Don't
catfishing, aren't
believe
they?
the pictures.
Don't believe it until
No.
you get there. We had definitely one that was like that when we
Yeah.
turned up, and we were just like, whoa. Ironically, we ended up getting we rented in the place just around the corner, which was far better and like maybe $5 a week more expensive. And
Yeah.
we were like, I don't understand. So what surprised you the most about the whole moving process?
I mean, I feel like we did a lot of research. A lot of research.
So the research helped with nerves and anxiety and
Yeah, we
stuff.
were suspiciously calm. I think people were actually a bit worried at how calm we were because the visa had been granted, and that was the biggest worry.
Getting that 190 permanent
Yeah,
residency.
so the 190, this is the crazy bit. So we waited all that time and we paid all that money and then we submitted the second visa. The night before we flew, at about, I can't remember what time, it was like midnight or 1 a.m. and we were just about to go to bed for our flight and Claire let out this scream and I'm like, oh God. And
And the email
she's
come
like, we're
through.
permanent residents. So we hadn't even stepped foot on Australian soil yet and that came through. After that, we were pretty calm.
Now that you've got your permanent residency, what are the big plans for you in the future?
I think our big plans are really just to lay down roots. At home in Scotland, we knew a lot of people. We owned our own home. We used to host a lot of parties. Like I'm big into my cooking, so we used to have a lot of friends around. So I think yeah, just putting the same sort of roots down, get out of the rental game here and buy as soon as we can, build ourselves a good network up of friends, work hard at work to fund the things that we dream of. The longer you spend in Queensland, the more boats and jet skis and all the other things you see. They
Toys.
love their toys.
Would Burley Heads be, is that your forever home?
I think so. It's beautiful here, and like you're 10 minutes to 9 or 10 minutes to the beach. You can drive 10 minutes to Rabina, which has a shopping centre with about 1,000 or 1,200 shops. We have incredible beaches. We've got skate parks. everywhere. I've been putting posts up on Facebook, to let family and friends know, like why Australia? It's so far away. Why not Spain or France or somewhere else that's quite mild? And I posted a photo of a local park that we went to, and the park was immaculate, so well cleaned.
Free
There was free
barbecues.
barbecues. There was a water station so that the kids could all get a drink and stay hydrated. It had toilets. It had picnic benches. Everything you could possibly need for a whole day. They could stay out of the sun. Some of them have even got sun cream stations with the sun cream in them. Yeah.
What? And people don't steal it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? But it's the mentality here.
The worst you might get is a little bit of graffiti. That's all we've kind
Yeah,
of noticed.
they just don't like the barbecues. The free to use ones. They're immaculate, and I don't know if you'd heard about it.
Yep.
But
They get cleaned
they
every day.
trialed the barbecues in Cornwall. Did you read about that? So they tried the whole Australian outdoors living free access, and I think they spent £800,000 installing free to use gas barbecues along the promenade somewhere in Cornwall, and within 6 weeks, they were condemned by health and safety because they were absolutely ridden with dirt and grime and vermin, because it was just the British mentality of like, somebody will clean it up. Like I'll make my lunch, somebody can deal with it. Whereas here, like they go in geared up, they cook their food, they clean it spotless, and then you arrive to a perfect barbecue and you treat it the same way.
Do you have any regrets about the process so far?
Regrets? No, I don't think. I think everything worked pretty well, and we didn't really. I sort of wish we'd bought the car before we arrived. We spent $2,000 on car hire. We were convinced that we weren't going to buy a new car. We were going to buy a used one. The market is crazy, but we thought we would find something suitable. That didn't happen, and then we ended up spending a lot of time ringing round dealerships. I rang every Kia dealership in Queensland, and obviously eventually found one in Cairns. But yeah, I think, looking more into cars, how much they cost, the type of car you want, it's all completely different here as well, isn't it? You've got rego, you don't have tax, you've got roadworthy, there's no MOT. So I lost a couple of grand there. On the whole, I don't think we've got any regrets in the way that we did things.
If you could do it all again, then what would you change?
If we could do it all again, I don't think we'd change everything. I'm not saying that it's absolutely perfect straight away, but I think you have to do quite a lot of the stuff when you get here. You can't preempt everything. You've got to do Medicare once you get here. You've got to change your driver's license. You've got to get tax file numbers. You can't really do any of that. One thing I would advise anybody, if you've used an agent and you sent them all your documents, if you've not got good life admin, spend a night or a day and get a USB drive and do things like passport photos, passports, bank statements, driver's licenses, your birth certificates, marriage certificates. Just collate it all in one place, because you'll find you'll go and do something really simple like we registered for nippers for the kids down at the surf club. First thing they want to see is your passports, your marriage certificates. If you've got to go rooting round emails or asking people back in the UK to scan them for you, you're going to stress yourself out. So I think just being a bit proactive, try to gather your documents and be prepared.
Well, there you go. You say USB, and I actually put all of mine onto a Google Drive.
Yeah.
So as long as I've got an internet connection, you can access it wherever. So that is a great tip. What advice do you have for people wanting to make the move?
I think just don't think about it and do it. People are always apprehensive about leaving loved ones behind and what will people think, and how will the kids react. And I think you can always make more money, but you can't buy more time. Just do it and move out and give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, you go home and you've spent quite a bit of money, but you gave it a try. A lot of people spend so much time talking about it and dreaming about it, not starting that first step of reaching out to the agent or getting your skills assessment. I think just do it, because if you get a 190 visa, you don't have to move out tomorrow. So yeah, my advice would be, if you're watching Ross's videos, there's a good chance you're either heading here, you're here, or you're seriously considering it. And yeah, I would say
Just go and do
just
it.
do it.
What's the worst that's going to happen? You end up back where you
Yeah,
were.
and there is, there is a page, Ping Pong
You
Poms.
just spent a bit of money. You were going to spend it
Yeah,
anyway.
but there is a Facebook page, Ping Pong Poms, which is really hard to say, and it's people who've gone from the UK to here and then back to the UK. That house party that I mentioned, we ended up at in Queensland a couple of weeks ago. We met some lovely couples there. The people hosting the party were from Wales, and they moved from Wales to Queensland. They stayed for 5 years. They decided to start a family, and they panicked about being close to parents and grandparents. So they spent all that money going back to the UK thinking it's going to be great. We're going to be surrounded by our loved ones. It's going to be great times all round. And then the reality set in that these people are busy. Yes, you might see them on the weekend or every couple of weeks, but day to day, they've got things to be doing. They're not going to be by your side the whole time. And the weather and the opportunities for the children. So they then spent all that money coming back again, and they've been back for 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, grass is greener where your water is, isn't it?
Yeah, just thinking about the whole kind of like family wise and stuff. How did you prepare your kids for leaving, close family and friends, particularly where you came from?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So we just made them aware from the start that we were in it together and that we were going to try it, and that we would, try it for a couple of years and see how everybody's feeling. We made it quite clear that we're not leaving everybody behind forever, and we don't have to stay. They know that we're just going to give it our all, try and establish our roots, and if it doesn't work and they're miserable, then we'll go back to the UK. So my advice would be just not scaring them with like, I've paid all this money and invested all this time, so we're not coming back. It doesn't work for everybody, does it? It's amazing out here, but some things can be expensive. I think if you're a lazy kind of person, it's not going to work out here. It's not a 4-hour working day. It's not surfing every single day. You still have to work hard. You still have to make the money.
You have to be a yes person as well, don't you?
For sure.
If your answer's always no, then that's fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to get out there. You're not going to find the opportunities. You're not going to, potentially make it worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why the Aussies even say yeah, nah, because they just always say yeah.
Just in case.
And the phrase that has always got me from when we were here in 2019, and I think it sums up life here, and particularly Queenslanders, is too easy. When they say to you in shops and restaurants or wherever you are, it's always too easy. And that's their mentality. It's like life is good. It's not a particularly amazing day. Nothing spectacular has happened, but you're here, the weather's good, the people are happy, like it's too easy. And I think in the UK, nobody really thought like that. Everybody's just stuck in a rut, looking at the downsides to things. Like in the UK, how many times did you bump into somebody and the first thing you talk about is the weather? Oh, it's a rubbish day today. It was like a conversation starter, whereas nobody here ever really starts the conversation with what the weather is like. It's more like, how are you going?
Unless you have a really, really bad storm like we did a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
How did you prep your own family for you leaving? Like not you directly, your kids and stuff, but your other family. How did you prep them for you leaving for the other side of the world?
We had looked at things with them like costs of flights and duration of flights and what the nearest airport was to them. We talked about the fact
just prepping them to come here.
Yeah, basically, our long-term plan ideally would be if we went back to the UK every second year and they came here the other year, then really you would see everybody once a year.
And when you did see them, it would be good quality time, wouldn't it? Rather than like what you said, just just seeing people on weekends if they're not too busy
Yeah,
for you.
it's not just being present, is it? Like it's living. And looking at the time zone and explaining that, really we're going to bed here while you wake up in the UK. That is actually quite a good opportunity for Zoom calls because it's the quieter times of the day. You're either just about to go to work or just about to go to bed. So it's quite a good time to catch both of you. I think most people's families, if you're thinking about moving to Australia, you've probably expressed to your loved ones how much or the fact that you would like to move. So they're probably aware of the fact that it's coming.
Not
Inevitably,
surprised.
you are going to get some tears, and I know some people are particularly close to their parents, and they see them every single day, and they rely on them for childcare. So
Probably isn't for them then, isn't it? That's the
it's a tough
fact.
journey.
The move isn't for
Yeah,
everyone.
it's not for everybody, and you've got to look at the end goal, and I think you've got to be pretty resilient. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people doing it. I think
Yeah.
my advice would
Awesome.
just be have the conversation. Just talk to everybody. Talk to your parents. Talk to your friends. Definitely talk to your partner. If it's a one way street, and one of you wants to go and one of you doesn't, that is not good. If one of them's open ended and is
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I wouldn't mind giving it a try. Let's see if your opinion's right. But if one's saying no and one's saying yeah, I wouldn't go down that route.
Tricky one.
I mean, you don't know till you try.
You don't know. That's the point, isn't it? You don't
Yeah,
know.
no, you don't know.
Well, I guess if you're thinking about moving to Australia and you're worried about how difficult the visa process might be, then you might think of using the sponsor of our podcast, True Blue Migration Services. They're one of Australia's oldest and most reputable MARA registered agents, with hundreds of positive Google reviews of happy people who have made the move to the land down under. Get yourself a free visa assessment when you mention that Johnston Life and let them tell you your best chances of moving to this beautiful country. Speak to them now on their website, truebluemigration.com. Thanks, James, for sharing your crazy journey moving to Australia. And I hope it's given some of you a greater insight in just exactly what you need to do to make the move yourself. If you want to see more of what our life is like in Australia, head over to our channel on YouTube, That Johnston Life. See you next time.